You're going to go in the positive polarity. You're going to stay with me because that's where I'm going. And there'll be a very bright future. Let the fear go. It isn't necessary. The cause of it is ignorance. The cause of all fear is ignorance. I'm going to give you understanding. It only comes through study. But it will brighten your life. And it will improve your results. And I've had nothing but a strong desire to teach this now for years and years. At first, I didn't know what happened. I was studying this. I was winning, but I didn't know why. I had earned over $1 million in a year. And I had absolutely no idea how I had done it. Now, probably like yourself, I had been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you've got to be really smart. I knew I wasn't very smart, but I was earning a lot of money. I was raised to believe if you're going to get a good job, you've got a good formal education. I didn't have any. I had 2 months in a technical school in high school. I didn't have a good job. I owned the whole company. I had offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, London, England. And I looked at all this and I thought, how did this happen? And I didn't know. If you had asked me, I couldn't tell you. But you know what I have found? I have found most highly successful people cannot articulate on why they are. They will say, well, I do this or I do that. And they'll point to one of these 13 principles that they worked at and mastered. The truth is, they're probably using them all and just not aware of it. They're what you call, or I call, an unconscious competent. They're very competent, but they're not consciously aware of why. Now, the sad part of this is that they've got this wonderful way of life, but they can't even transfer it to their children, nor can they give it to their staff. So you find very successful businessmen and women in business or just in life, but they don't know why. Well, I got very curious. I wanted to know why. Why did a guy like me change? I didn't believe there was an emotional or capricious God reached out and said, let's give Bob a chance. I didn't believe that. I thought, something's happened. What's happened? Well, I spent 9.5 years studying with some absolutely brilliant people. Now, I formed a good habit over that time. I picked good mentors, and that's very important. You can use these films as a mentor. You can. You can let me be your mentor. You know, I've often heard it said people that have been gone for a couple of thousand years can help you more than somebody that's alive today. And I get a lot of help from people that have been gone for a long time through their books and writings. So you could use this series as a mentor. But a habit I formed right from the first person that helped me, Ray Stanford, he said, do exactly what I tell you. And for some reason, I decided I would. I didn't question him, I just did it. He said, do it until you find out I'm lying or I don't know what I'm talking about. And he said, I don't lie, and I do know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to say that to you, and hopefully you'll grasp it the same as I did. Do what I suggest in these films until you find out I'm lying or I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't lie. And believe me, I do know what I'm talking about. Many years ago, they said, by their results, you'll know them, or by their fruits, you'll know them. Well, I'm 84. I've got as much energy as many people, 24 or 44. I've earned millions of dollars. I have wonderful friends all over the world. And this came to a guy that started with nothing. This does work for anyone. It truly does work for anyone. So dig into this and say, I'm going to give this a whirl until I find out he's lying or he doesn't know what he's talking about. You do that, and you're going to find these 13 principles will change your life like night and day. I searched every day, and every time I picked a new mentor, and I did pick new mentors, I did exactly what they said. It was difficult at first because what I was really doing was changing habit patterns. But they were teaching me things. They were teaching me information that the average person may never learn. I developed a very close rapport with them. And they were brilliant people, every one of them very accomplished. That is a good rule. If you want to do something, go to someone who is demonstrated by results. They do know what they're talking about. Ask them, what should you do? Then do exactly what they tell you. Now, I know that works because I'm still doing it. And I do it every day. So I'm going to ask you to resurrect some of those dreams that you may have let fade. Bring them to the surface of your mind. Treat this as some magic formula if you want. And you'll find out it'll produce. I once read where a writer said, you know, when you really understand how the magicians perform their tricks, it isn't magic any longer. And that's true. I work conventions every now and then, and there's a magic act at the convention. They'll ask me to take part in some part of it. So to do that, I have to understand what they're doing. And I found out it's hard to believe. Wonder why the audience doesn't see this. When you understand the trick, it's not magic. But when you understand life, it's really magic. And that's what you're going to find. That's what you're going to find all wrapped up in this. It's absolutely incredible. To understand these 13 principles, this absolutely incredible philosophy, I think we should go back to where it all started. And as you get involved in this, as you mentally build this image in your mind, you're going to see how all this has fallen in place. And it's absolutely incredible the more you think about it. Now, I have been studying this for so long, it's really a part of my life. But we have to go way back to 1908. Things were pretty primitive then relative to today. We weren't moving at the speed we're moving at now. Napoleon Hill was a young reporter for a little magazine. And someone, probably the editor, decided they would run a series of articles of interviewing wealthy people. Hill was fortunate enough to get an interview, a 3-hour interview, with the wealthiest man in the world, Andrew Carnegie. And he went and he sat and he interviewed him. Now, unbeknownst to Napoleon Hill, Andrew Carnegie was looking for someone that he could give a big project to. And he hadn't yet found anyone. At the end of the 3-hour interview, Andrew Carnegie said to Napoleon Hill, Napoleon, this interview isn't ending, it's just beginning. I want you to come home with me. Hill said he was glad he took him home because he didn't have enough money to rent a hotel room. He spent 3 days with Andrew Carnegie, the wealthiest man in the world. Now think of this. Over those 3 days, Andrew Carnegie shared his philosophy. See, he started out as a poor boy, immigrated from Scotland with his parents just as a boy. They didn't have anything. So he went from nothing to be the wealthiest man in the world. And he shared with Napoleon Hill his whole philosophy. At the end of the 3 days, Carnegie decided that I think this is the man I'm looking for. I guess you could tell by his level of interest in the story, the philosophy of what got him to where he was. There was probably a number of factors came into play, but Carnegie I think he's the guy. And so he asked him a question. Unbeknownst to Napoleon Hill, he only gave him 60 seconds to answer the question. And at the end of the 60 seconds, he would have to make a decision, a monumentous decision, if you think about it. He looked at him. He had a stopwatch in his hand under his desk. And he says, Napoleon, you've spent 3 days with me. You know now how I've accomplished what I've accomplished. He says, I'm going to ask you a question, and I just want a yes or no answer. Just a yes or no answer, Napoleon. He said, would you spend or invest the rest of your life in an idea for which you would probably receive no material compensation for at least 20 years? How would you answer that question? I've asked myself on many occasions how I would answer it. In 25 seconds, Napoleon Hill said, yes, he would. He qualified. He passed the essay test. And he had to make a decision. That was a big decision. You're going to run up against decisions. This is one of the 13 principles. Napoleon Hill wrote a whole chapter on decision in his book, Think and Grow Rich. And right on the very first page, he points out that all successful people make decisions very fast. They change them very slow, if and when they change them at all. And he pointed out that people that are not successful make decisions very slow and change them fast and often. I guess that's why Andrew Carnegie gave him 60 seconds. If he took longer, he would be disqualified. How do you make decisions? Now, Carnegie said to Hill, he said, now, Napoleon, I'm going to introduce you to some of the world's most successful people. He said, I'm going to give you letters of introduction. You'll receive no subsidy from me. I want you to go out and write the laws of achievement. He says, it's a shame that people like myself are going to their grave with all this knowledge locked up in their bones. He said, I want it organized. And I want you to organize it. I will give you letters of introduction, and then you're on your own. Now, he said, you're going to run into many tough times, Napoleon. No question about that. So he said, I'm going to give you something that'll help you through those tough times. I want you to write this out. I want you to write every word. No one's going to underline every word. Now, he said, this is a message that you're going to give from yourself to yourself, Napoleon. So it's going to be you talking to you. I want you to write down Andrew Carnegie. I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, I'm going to meet you at the post and pass you at the grandstand. Well, as the story goes, he threw his pencil on the floor. He says, now you know darn well I'm not going to be able to do that. He says, I know you're not, Napoleon, unless and until you believe it. But I want you to repeat that every morning, and I want you to repeat it every night. I want you to look in the mirror, and I want you to repeat that. Looking in your eye, say, Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, I'm going to meet you at the post, and I'm going to pass you at the grandstand. Now, that wasn't an easy thing for Hill to do. He was living with his brother. He had promised his brother that he was going to pay for him to go through college. Now he was going to have to go home and tell his brother he couldn't do that. He had a project that he was working on. It was going to take all his time. And it was going to take every cent that he could get for himself. Then he was afraid to tell his brother what he was going to do because he thought his brother would think he had lost his mind. He's going to work on a 20-year project. Nobody's giving him any money. Nobody's going to pay him. The first day he went and he locked himself in the bathroom. And he looked in the mirror and he whispered it. Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, I'm going to meet you at the post and I'm going to pass you at the grandstand. Now he said he felt when he was saying like he was a darn fool. He said, this isn't going to happen. But he said, I made a commitment that I would do this, so I better do it. So every morning and every night he would do this. Now he had committed that he would do it for 30 days. Around the middle of the month, he started to think maybe it could happen. By the end of the month, he knew it would happen. Now I've done a fair amount of study on this over the last 50 years. And anything I've been able to discover is that Carnegie made somewhere in the vicinity of 50 millionaires. Some people say 20. I've read 23. I've read 50. Napoleon Hill has made millions of millionaires. So you see, he did equal his achievements. He went past his achievements, and he did pass them at the grandstand. Here's a poor boy, a young cub reporter for a magazine. How did he do that? Why did he do that? I think he did it strictly on the belief that Carnegie wasn't going to ask him to do anything that was unjust. But why is it that all successful people make decisions very fast and change them slow? And he found out that was true in his research with all these giants. Well, you know, I have never stopped studying it. I probably never will stop studying it. And I'm going to show you something about decision that has the potential to change your life forever. You see, I wanted to know, why do successful people make decisions when they have absolutely no idea how they're going to make it happen? There's a reason for it. Now, many of them are unconscious competence. They don't know why they do. That's just the way they do it. You can become a conscious competent with what I'm going to show you. Now, do you see, it all starts with our own thinking. See, vibration is a law of the universe. Everything vibrates, nothing rests. Look at the walls around you. They're vibrating. They appear to be still. They're really not still. Look at them through a microscope. You'll see the energy dancing in front of your eyes.